Hi, Suzanne. You asked me why a plant based diet is healthier than an animal based diet. Um, so, we just watched the movie for biology. You guys were assigned A Life on Our Planet by David Attenborough. So, I know that you know the significance of the environmental impact that a lot of meat eating causes. So we talked about his quote where he said, "The true tragedy of our time is still unfolding, the loss of biodiversity." And in order to have all these crops and all this agriculture, we have decimated large swaths of land, and we've turned them into mono crops, or palm oil was an example that we used in our class. And this just destroys all this biodiversity that we really need. Um, and if we used it to grow plants, even if we did already ruin that, and but then instead of using it for livestock, we used it for plants, um, that would be better, because plants are a better source of energy for us. Because when it comes from the sun, you probably learned this in 10 science, um, that the direct, if you're looking at trophic levels, the direct energy that you get from the sun to the plant is greatly reduced as you go through the trophic levels. So if you eat a plant, you're eating something that has used photosynthesis to directly change the sun's energy into energy that we can then use for cellular respiration. But if we eat the animal that ate the plant, now we're that much more far removed. So it's not an efficient way to get calories also. But even if that weren't true, and we weren't talking about how cows give off all kinds of methane gas, which causes global warming and all of that, plus how now we about 70% of birds are now for human consumption, mostly chickens, that we've changed that and gotten rid of all of these natural wild spaces. If we even ignored all of that and this large demand for meat and how it's ruining our planet, then we could then go to I'm going to tell you about two books that I really loved reading back in the early 2000s. One was called The China Study. That's a tough read. It's a lot of scientific evidence, it's a lot of data. And if you keep going back to the references to the Cornell Oxford Chinese preventative medicine, I think it was those three that did this, but they did this massive study that allowed them to track, I forget how many counties in China, but basically over 6,000 people. And they were all genetically similar enough and had similar environmental um, areas and had similar backgrounds, so that they could eliminate as many variables as possible to really focus on their nutrition. So they compared people and how much plant based or animal based their diets were. And they found crazy things. Like, I have never drunk milk since, because of the casein protein and all the damage that it did, causing autoimmune diseases. And at that time, I learned about how the milk board promotes dairy as being great for your nutrition. You get calcium. But now we're finding out that osteoporosis and other issues, this doesn't even help. And there's more hip fractures in populations with high milk consumption than in the other populations with low milk consumption. So it doesn't add up, and it's propaganda put on by the milk board because they want to sell more milk. And unfortunately, until pretty recently, our Canada food guide was funded by beef and dairy. What are they called? Anyway, proponents of consumption of those products. So the China study, I highly recommend that if you're really interested in nutrition. It's loosely based on that massive study, which I think was called something like the King of Epidemiology, the King study, or something like that. What else? But on the flip side of that, what happens if you're eating plants that are like refined pasta, and you're eating, well, vegan donuts and white rice? Well, that's not a healthy diet. So when I say that putting more plants and less meat into your diet is healthier, then I want to make sure that you know that I'm not talking about vegan donuts and white rice. You have to have things that are whole grains. The less processed it is, the better. So the more whole food it is, the better. And that brings me to the other book. When I was teaching at the university, I assigned my education students the book In Defense of Food by Michael Pollan. It's an awesome book and it's an easy read. He's written a bunch of different books, but this one I really liked because it gives you all the background. So you learn things that I had learned from the China study about, for example, nitrites. They're really bad for you, or aflatoxins. They're bad for you. And these are things that you might get in your diet and not even realize that it's bad for you, and that they cause problems. So Michael Pollan goes through like processed meat, and so does the China study. I'm getting them a little bit confused because it's been a long time since I've read them, but in between those two books I learned about how you don't want things that are processed with nitrites. It's really bad for you, and how you have to be careful to have, you should be more concerned with the nutrition that you're getting than the pesticides. Not that pesticides are good, they're bad for us and the environment. So whenever possible, if you can get things that are pesticide free, you absolutely want to do that. But when you're looking at your own nutrition, you want to think about that it's energy consumers. Well, plants, us eating plants, that's one less step down the energy chain, so it's better for us. The fact that we're eating things that are full of fiber. So back to that, don't eat white rice and things that aren't full of fiber. Juice is terrible for you. It's basically sugar water. You no longer have the fiber that you get in fruit. So that plant fiber is the mega importance in our diet. We need that plant fiber. You can't get it from animals. And proteins. People will say who are pushing a protein-based animal diet that, oh well, you can't get all those essential amino acids that you need in your diet if you don't eat meat. And I understand what they're saying. However, if you eat a variety of plants, like, you have to be really careful. Like, I do not recommend going vegan until you've done a lot of nutritional research, because it's so easy to be deficient and get ill. So in order to be vegan or vegetarian, you have to be really careful about making sure you get a wide variety of plants. And I remember saying to my kids, like, we want to eat the rainbow. We want to have all different colors in our plant-based diet, because you'll get different things from it, different antioxidants, different things that will fight cancer. So I recommend, yes, eating as many plants as you can, lots of leafy greens, whole food, not processed. French fries, they don't count as a plant. In fact, really, potatoes don't either, because it's just starch. So you want to eat things that are real plants and whole food, and be careful not to overcook them, because then you're cooking out the nutrients that you need. What else was I going to tell you? Michael Pollan in Defense of Food. I think that's it. If you have any other questions, definitely reach out to me. But basically, I'm an omnivore. I'm not a vegetarian or a vegan. I do still eat meat. I try to get it from the market, from people who are producing it ethically and in small batches, because it's better for the environment and better for us and better for our community. But the reason I am not vegan is because I have not been able to discipline myself to find the ingredients to make sure that I'm getting all the essential amino acids that I need by combining certain foods together, so that I can have all of that nutrition that I need. So I'm eating like an omnivore. I try to eat organic and local whenever I can. I take a multivitamin just to make sure that I'm not missing anything. What was the other thing? Oh, and iron. People will often say, well, you need to eat meat to get your iron. But there's so many ways you can get iron from plants, and it's absolutely possible to get everything you need just by eating plants. However, you have to be super self-disciplined and educate yourself in order to get everything that you need. So as a little insurance policy for me, I take the multivitamin, but I can't remember the exact amount that it said in the China study, but it was something like, if you eat less than 20% of your diet is to do with animal products, that you'll be pretty healthy. So I just try and keep it down to under 10%. And then I feel like that's a pretty good balance. And then I hope once my kids are older and I'm not trying to cook for so many different food allergies and sensitivities and preferences, that I will be able to go to a vegan diet. But for now, I'm an omnivore who really thinks that plant based diets are awesome. I hope that helped you. Okay, bye.